You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you can join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your host, Keith Wheeler.
And Nuria Colby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Today we're going to talk about something that I keep hearing all the time, and that is Amazon KDP is saturated. What do you think about that?
It's dripping. It's saturated. Yeah, I hear it all the time. And I'll tell you, when I hear it, depending on the mood I'm in, I have one or two physical responses. I either cringe or I roll my eyes. Those are pretty much my two visible responses when I hear that. Because to the point where I see commercials on YouTube where people are saying, KDP is saturated. I'm like, what? No, stop.
It's crazy. It's like, and also even not just KDP is saturated, certain types of books, that's saturated. Right. Coloring books, that's saturated. Everyone is making coloring books. If we didn't make any books in any of those niches, no one would create any books because every niche is saturated. If by saturated you mean there's competition everywhere. And it's not just books, it's every business out there. There would be no doctors because look how many doctors there are. There would be no nurses. How many nurses are there? There would be no builders, no architects, nothing, because everything is saturated. I think the difference is, and I say this, I don't want this to sound negative, but I sometimes have the feeling that when people say, this is saturated, what they're really saying is, I don't want to put the effort into it.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that is what it sounds like to me, because it's like they're saying, no, it's too difficult. I don't want to do it. Everything that's worth doing is difficult. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. It's either that or they've heard somebody say it's saturated. Or the person that's saying it's saturated is saying it because they have ulterior motives. They're saying this is saturated because they don't want you to get in there because it's lucrative. It makes money. By being saturated, if it didn't sell, there wouldn't be that much competition. That's the easiest way for me to think. To put it. Think of how many, regardless of what country you live in, think of how many McDonald's there are. Okay, not just burger restaurants, but specifically McDonald's, and yet they're always building another one, right? Because it sells. So by being saturated, the word saturated means like too much, like it's an overabundance. And it's not the case, because if it was that way, then some of them would, the majority of them wouldn't sell. You'd only have a couple that sold. But that's not the case. Even the worst placed McDonald's is still making money, or they'd be out of business. Yeah. So I never like to sound negative, but it really bothers me. I guess it's the polite way for me to put it. It bothers me when I hear people say KDP is saturated, or this niche is saturated, or this niche, and it doesn't bother me because of the words that they're using. What bothers me is I know that people are hearing that could do really well in this business, and it's scaring them away, because they're like, well, if so and so says it and they've been doing this for X length of time, and I'm just starting out, well, if they think it's saturated, then there's no way I'm going to do it. And there's a lot of people that could do really well in this business if they just didn't listen to that.
I know. You've just hit the nail on the head so well, because it annoys me no end, because I know you can sell books. I sell notebooks, which everybody says you can't sell notebooks on Amazon. I make good money from notebooks, simple notebooks. And when I hear people say, all these YouTubers, they just tell you to do this because that's how they make their money from teaching, it just makes me really upset, because I think these people could be creating an income and do what I did, where I could leave my job, where my husband could leave his job, and we could work together and work from home and not worry about having to make a doctor's appointment and taking time off. We're having a much better life now because we're in a saturated market, because we're selling books on Amazon KDP and it's working for us. It's not easy. We're not saying it's easy and it's something that you can start today and make money tomorrow. That is not the case. It is difficult. And I think that is why people are saying it. They've probably started doing it and they haven't made money straight away. And then they're saying, oh, this doesn't work. It's saturated. And I think you said it so well, because it upsets us, because it's stopping other people from doing it and from making a good living from it. And yes, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But any business you go into, and it's the easiest business to go into because you don't have to buy stock. You don't have to have rent for a shop unit or for a warehouse or for anything like that. It's something that you can start while you're working somewhere else and do it as a side hustle and then see how it goes. It's going to take time, it's not instant, but it's something that everyone can do. And it's so sad when people say, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If it didn't work for you, it might work for somebody else. Maybe you didn't try everything that you could have tried. Maybe you didn't come up with the ideas that you needed to come up with. Maybe you just copied somebody else. And that is a sure way of failing, so it's upsetting. It's not upsetting. It just makes me a bit angry, to be honest, because,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, like I said, sometimes I get angry about it. Usually I just get sad. Like I said, I get sad because I know that there are people who, that this business could change their life.
Exactly.
And when it comes to saturation, I think you brought up a really good point. And that is, do I think KDP is saturated? No. Do I think certain niches are saturated? Honestly, no. But do I think that if you make a copy of one of my books, that brand is saturated? There's only room for one of that exact book, And so if I create book, whatever, XYZ, doesn't matter if it's a line journal, a coloring book, doesn't matter, whatever kind of book it is, and you just copy it, you're not going to see success, because if your book is exactly the same as my book, and let's say you steal everything, you use the exact same title, you use one of these softwares that scrapes Amazon and picks out what keyword phrases I use. Okay, great. If mine's been up there and it's got reviews, and yours is the exact same with the exact same keywords and everything else, and it has no reviews, even if it's cheaper, people are going to go with the one that's got social proof.
Yeah.
And so if your goal is to just copy other people, then I don't even want to say that KDP is not the business for you. That's not a good business model, no matter what kind of business you're in. If going back to the whole restaurants, I used to manage a restaurant many years ago. But if you open up a restaurant that is serving the exact same things with the exact same recipes as a different restaurant, you will not last. You have to have something that makes your stuff stand out. And so it's less about the general KDP is saturated, or books are saturated, or line journals. What are you in your business? What are you going to do to make your stuff stand out in a good way? And that's really what's going to make the difference. I've said it probably 100 times over all these episodes we've done, but one of the biggest differences I've seen between people who are successful in this business and those that aren't is the ones that aren't quit before they got there. It really comes down to in other business. When I was in college, business management was what I was going to college for. And, if you start a brick and mortar business, they typically say it's going to take 5 years before you start turning a profit.
Yeah.
That is not the case when it comes to KDP or any online business.
Yeah.
Are you going to make money back, the very next day? No. I mean, if the best you can do is make it in 60 days when you get paid from KDP. But I'm telling you that, I mean, when I got that first paycheck that I got from, at that time, CreateSpace, and it was, I don't remember, $12, $20, something like that. That's all it took to get me hooked. I was
Yeah.
like, I can make that, that's just proof of concept. And I know one thing that a lot of people say when it comes to someone like you and myself that talk about how successful you can be in this business and how it's changed our lives. They're like, okay, well, you've been doing this for years, and that's different. It wasn't as competitive back then, and that's true. It definitely wasn't as competitive back then as it is now. But I literally come out with a new pen name, maybe sometimes in a new niche, at least every quarter. I'll have something, a completely new pen name, and I'm still seeing success doing that. So it's not that I'm riding on the curtails of a brand that's already been out there for 8, 9, 10 years. It's what worked then in general, the general synopsis of creating good quality books doesn't change.
Yeah. That is so true. And you said, if you're going to copy someone, you use the same title, the same cover, the same interior, whatever. When I said, if you copy someone, that's not really going to work, I didn't even mean that. I meant if you even copy someone's idea, and there's nothing wrong with copying someone's idea, but because that idea is already out there, you've got to add something to that. You've got to make it different in some way. You can't just make a similar book, and we've all done it. I've done it as well. When I first started, I looked on Amazon KDP and I thought, oh, this book is selling really well. I'll make one like that, and obviously I made a different cover and called it something different, but the essence of it was the same. And obviously you're competing with something that's already out there that people are already buying. So you're never going to sell more than they are. But if you can change that, you can still take the idea and change something or put something personal that you have experienced or that you have knowledge in, and you make it different, make it yours. That is what's going to bring you the results. And I think that's what I meant by copying. I didn't even mean copy exactly like it. I meant even slightly copy something. It's got to be original. It's got to be something, that is different to what's already out there. And I see that a lot with coloring books. Everybody is making the bold and easy, the cozy, whatever. You've got to come up with something different now. And humor sells. Humor is a good one. And or just, even if you're just changing it because you're putting your personality into it, that sometimes works as well.
Right.
So there's so many ways of really not make it saturate, or make yourself stand out, so that even if something is saturated in your mind, you're still gonna cut through that. And every business is like that. KDP is no different. It's you brought up a perfect example, McDonald's or Burger King or any chain, fast food chain. But I could tell you lots of different examples. You look at any business and you tell me, is that an original business? No, I'm sure there's more of them as well.
Right.
You only have to look at your high street, and see all the different, and the town next to your town will have the same sort of shops. It's not saturated. There's competition. Yeah.
You just need to find a way to make it your own, make it unique. And I mean, we could do a whole episode on how to do that, like how to copy someone's idea and make it yours. But I mean, one of the things that you absolutely can do, like you said, taking, and I've done this when, if I'm looking at a new niche, or I want to do what they call right to market, I want to create a book for a niche that may not be something that I am, it's not something I'm super in love with, but I know that there's a market for it. There's people, hungry to buy it, and which means, I can sell, I could sell books in that. But what you can do is, and we've talked about this before, find a book that's selling, okay, selling pretty well. And look at the reviews. Look at I mean, how many
Yes.
times have we said this? Look at the positive reviews, the fours and the fives. What do people love about this book? So that way that when you create yours, you need to absolutely include those. But more importantly, the ones and the twos and the threes. What do people dislike about this? We've talked about puzzle books before, and for some reason, one of the trends right now is to not include solutions in your puzzle book.
I saw
And
that.
and yeah, and I think you actually did a video on your channel where you were looking at the reviews, and some people see that as a positive, that
Yeah.
there's no, which means I'm getting all puzzles instead of getting, half puzzles and half solutions, which I completely understand. But from my experience, most of the people find it like something's missing because they're used to there being a solution there. So they don't like the fact that there's no solution in there. So that's a negative. So what does that mean? Not only that tells you that when you create, a puzzle book in that niche, that you want to include solutions, but I would take it the next level, and I would actually put, pretty bold on my cover, and say solutions included. Make it
Yeah.
a selling point. Make it
Yeah.
something that makes your book stand out. So not only does it stand out and make it clear that yours has it, but it also, in the eyes of the potential buyer, all these ones that don't say it's included, then they kind of wonder, is it included? Well, I know it's included
Yeah.
in this one, so I'm just going to
Yeah.
buy the one that I know it's included in.
Yeah.
So again, just little things like that can make your books stand out. And I know obviously puzzle books is not going to be the same as doing it with a children's book, but still the negative reviews, you can, maybe someone wrote in their children's book, they had it rhyme, but it didn't quite rhyme just right, and so it
Oh,
doesn't
yes.
doesn't flow right, and so that can be a negative review.
Yeah.
And so that tells you, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't make mine rhyme. And again, things like that. So looking at the reviews of books that are already out there, and I even go the next step, and I look at the dates of those reviews. If it's a review from 4 or 5 years ago, well, that's going to have a little bit less weight for me than something that they just now bought the book and left a review. And so I know that, maybe the author didn't make any tweaks and upload it again. So I can look at that and say, okay, these are things that as of right now, they're still missing. I can create a book that fixes that.
Absolutely. I think it was quite funny you should mention the puzzle books with solutions and no solutions. I actually, when I saw that, I thought actually it's quite a good marketing ploy not to have the solutions, because they're basically forcing people to go on their QR code and to then get the solutions. And how do they get them? They have to give them their email address. So
Right.
it's a really good way to build your email list. But I
Right.
find that, personally, I'm one of those people who prefers to give them the solutions at the
Right.
end of
I
the
agree.
book, because that's how I would want my book to be. So yeah, I agree. Actually, you made a really good point there of putting that on your book and saying solutions included, because I think
Yeah.
now it used to be a given, but now it's not.
Yep.
So
I mean, to me, it's the equivalent of me going to a restaurant and me ordering a drink and them not putting ice in it, and then I can put ice in it, or they didn't give me a straw, whatever. And just give me your email address and I'll give you the straw, or just give me your email address and I'll give you some ice. No, I
you
want it
want
all in
it.
one.
Yeah.
It's something you just assume until you start seeing that, well, it's not there now. So yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely can be jarring on something like that. And I mean, and again, I can understand why some people might be like, this entire book, this, instead of it being 100 pages and it's 75 pages of puzzles and 25 pages of solutions, it's 100 pages of puzzles.
Yeah.
Great, I understand that, but I especially, and if that's what you want to do, you want to create that, again, make your book stand out by making it clear on the cover. You know,
Yeah.
all puzzles, solutions, online or access to the
Online.
solution, however you want to word it. But
Yeah.
again, it makes your book stand out by saying I'm being completely honest and I'm making it a selling point that it's all puzzles,
Mm.
you know, again, and that should not only make your book stand out, but also it should, minimize the amount of negative reviews that you get because you're being upfront, right at the beginning. You're still going to get them. You're still going to get people to
Oh, yeah.
complain. But
Yeah.
again, getting back to the whole saturation is making your whatever you're creating, making it different. The
Yeah.
industry as a whole is not saturated. There's new books coming out every single day, and there are new people just starting out that are starting out a business and still making money.
Mm.
So it's, saturated. Absolutely. I would say not. Is it competitive? Yes. Is it easy? It's it's not easy to do right. It does take
Yeah.
trial and error. But nowadays there's so many people, like Nuria, like myself, that try to help, give
Mm.
you hints, tips, and tricks to make things easier. So you
Yeah.
can kind of learn from the mistakes that we've made over our, almost decade doing this.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, and again, not just KDP. I have yet to find a niche that I think is oversaturated, I guess is a better way to put it. I don't think anything is oversaturated. If there's competition in there that tells you that there's probably good sales in there, or people wouldn't keep making them.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can think of lots of books that I've made in really competitive niches, but they're selling because I made them in a different way, or
Right.
I've found something that, and I love that you mentioned the reviews on Amazon, because that's where I get lots of my ideas from.
Yeah.
I love looking through Amazon book reviews because everything you need to know is there, because those are the people that are buying those books, and they can tell you what they like and what they don't like, and that's exactly how you can find out people what people want and what they don't want, so you can avoid what they don't want. It's when you say it like that, it's not that difficult. But I can understand that when you're starting out, we've all started out in the same way. We've all copied, we've all tried and failed, and and it took a while for me to make an income on Amazon, but
Absolutely.
I didn't give up. And we always say, don't we, on this channel, on this podcast as well, that the people that fail are usually the people that give up too soon.
Yeah.
And the other people that fail are, unfortunately, the people with the wrong mindset. I think that all this Amazon is saturated, or any business is saturated, it comes down to the wrong mindset.
Hmm.
Because a business-minded person sees opportunities rather than saturation.
Right.
And I think the people that say it's saturated, what they're really looking for is shortcuts. And
Right.
I'm telling everyone, there are no shortcuts on Amazon KDP. The days of uploading 1,000 books a day and just changing one word on the title, and that's gone. That doesn't exist, and I'm glad it's gone, because
Yeah.
I know some people made money, but it kind of cheapened the whole book market.
Right.
It wasn't the right thing to do. And I think, if anything, I think Amazon is a better place now than it was 5-6 years ago, because all of that doesn't exist. Amazon is really trying to lift the standards of the whole low content book section.
Yeah.
Oh, and fiction and non-fiction as well, because we've got the other problem now with AI as well. So, they're constantly creating new rules that kind of help to keep the standard up as high as possible. They
Right.
don't always succeed, but they try. So yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, those people that are, in my opinion, going about it the wrong way. They're in it for the quick win or whatever. They're the ones that aren't around for long.
Yeah.
They may find, they may be that unicorn, and they find a workaround or whatever, but
Yeah.
it doesn't take long before either they get caught and their account closed, or it stops working, and then they just walk away because again, it's not as easy as they wanted it to be. So it's, just like any business that's worth having and that's worth keeping long distance, long term, is going to take time. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. But I personally, very seldom will I say something failed, because as long as I learn something from it, then it's again, it's a stepping stone to get me to what works. And it's I forgot what I was watching. I was watching something on a video, and somebody had said something that really caught my attention, which explained in a way that I've never been able to articulate why I do what I do. And that is, if something were to happen to me tomorrow, is my 9 to 5 job, how are they going to take care of my family? They're not.
They're not.
But my KDP business absolutely can. Suzette and I we took a month off and we went to Cancun and for our anniversary, and my business still ran, Obviously I didn't send automatic emails and things like that, but and I wasn't on social media, but the business, as far as like the money coming in, everything else was still, and actually some of them actually started selling more. Not because I was gone, but because of the time of year it was. So I was able to step away from my business and get the same paycheck or better, whether I was there or not. And that's something I can't do from a regular job.
Yeah, that is so true. And I had a similar thought not long ago, because I'm having a few health problems and my voice is struggling these days. I don't know if people have noticed, but sometimes it takes me forever to create a video. And I did think, if one day I am not able to create videos or whatever, what would happen? And I thought, nothing. My books are still selling, so it's the kind of business that can it is perfect passive income. I mean, I've put in the work, but now it's passive income, really. Right. So yeah, it's so true. That example that you gave about your 9 to 5 job, if something happens to you, that's it, but this is kind of sustaining our families as well. So,
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I mean, I love doing the YouTube videos. I love doing the podcast. But the money that comes in from that is
nothing.
It's a drop in the bucket. I mean, YouTube's always changing things around to where, now it's going to, now it's going to pay this, it's going to pay that. Yeah. That's not why we do it. We do it. We do it because we like helping other people, and we want others to see the success that we've seen, because we know firsthand how it can honestly change lives. And so, not just ours, but I mean, I've seen it with students. I've seen it with, I hear it on, in emails I get, in comments on the channel. But again, it's the book business that's really driving, my business.
Yeah, I agree. I think people don't realize, what is involved, and especially to create YouTube videos, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of equipment that you need to buy. There's a lot involved in it, and YouTube changes its algorithm all the time. I can honestly say that my income from YouTube is next to nothing. And that is with I used to get far more with less subscribers than I am getting now. So it's really not worth our while almost, but we do it because I started doing it because I was so excited about KDP and how it changed my life. I thought, if this can happen for other people, there might be another woman out there with little children, and she's struggling to keep her household and her children, and if they can do what I do, how much better would they be off? So that was the reason I started, and that is, so and like I said, I mean, any business takes time, but it's not just that. Any other business, and when I had my previous businesses, you had to pay money up front, whatever you're doing. I had to pay money up front when I had my bakery. I had to rent the shop. I had to buy all the equipment. So you're investing a lot of money, and you know you're not going to make any money for about a year. That's just,
Right.
you know that because you've invested so much, and you're going to have to sell a lot of bread to get back that money. Same happened with my school, my language school. I started on my dining room table, and it got bigger and bigger. In the end, we had to rent premises, and we had to kit it out. We had to create classrooms, buy blackboards, buy chairs and tables, and we had to have a reception area. It was a big investment. Again, you're not going to make your money back in quite a long time. The jewelry business was on a smaller scale, but I still had to buy all the stock. So there was thousands of dollars of investment before you could even start. And Amazon KDP, what is the investment? Your time. That's all. You can do it with free tools.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to pay to get a good cover, that's pretty much it. You can pay to get your book edited. There are free ways around both of those as well, and also you kind of alluded to this, but with most businesses, you also are out of your house. You're away.
Yeah.
You're away from your family. You're away from your kids. Whereas this, I can write. I literally was writing the chapter of my next book with my granddaughter sitting right here on her laptop next to me. I couldn't have done that. When I was managing a restaurant, I couldn't do that. With a normal 9-to-5 job, but I can do that with this. And so again, there's so many people that that want to be stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, or whatever, but financially they just can't. This could be that gateway that allows them to do that. So you can make money for your family, not just now, but have something that will sustain them long term. Something that, heaven forbid, something does happen, can still take care of your family, but also while you're here with them, and you don't miss all those moments. You don't miss the ball games or the first steps, first words. You're able to do all of that, and again, with very little, if any, investment, except for your time.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, it's been. If I think back all the businesses that I've done in the past, this has been by far the most life-changing, with the least investment, which is the best thing about it. And I know some people say, oh, you've got to pay for ads, otherwise you're not going to sell. That's not necessarily true either, because there's so many ways of promoting your books for free. And if you are creating your book in the right way, sometimes you don't even need to do that. I've had books sell that I never promoted, I never ran ads on. They just started selling organically because I had a keyword that really hit home, and it was just, that's how I started earning money from KDP. So it's possible. And I know there's more competition now, and I know some people will say, no, you do have to run ads. And I agree with that up to a point. But it's still not the kind of investment that you would have to invest in a different type of business. It's still something that's manageable. Tools that are out there, if you want to expand your bookshelf, yes, you can invest in tools. And honestly, most of them are not even that much. And I say that as someone who couldn't afford to buy tools when I first started. The first tool I ever bought was Tangent Templates, and I would recommend everyone, if you can only buy one tool, that's the tool to buy. That's my opinion. I don't know what you would say to that, but that's the one that helped me the most.
I mean, I think that just honestly will come down, and we could do a whole nother episode on that. But I do have Tangent Templates, not gonna lie. I think Catherine and Isaac are great, but I think it really depends on what type of book you're putting out. Obviously, if you're writing children's books or long epic novels, then it's probably not the software for you.
Do you know what I used to use it for years?
What?
Just for the dimensions of the book, just to create my cover and the manuscript. That's all I was using it for.
Yeah. I was going to say, for me, the first software that I bought was Publisher Rocket. That was the first one I bought.
That was a good one. Yeah.
But and that because that can help you regardless of what niche you're in.
Yeah.
But the important thing is before you buy any kind of software is, do it for free. Do it, you get know what that software is doing so you can know whether it's worth the money. Also, that way you're not reliant on it. If something happens, you can still do it yourself.
Yeah.
But again, getting back to KDP being saturated, I definitely, I mean, I think we've covered it a couple of different ways, but the bottom line is for me, it's KDP is not saturated. It's not oversaturated. I've yet to see a niche that is oversaturated to where you can't get in there and make money if you create even line journals. If you create it, if you create a basic whatever book, whatever, enter the niche here, whatever type of book it is. If you create a basic one, you most likely will not sell because there's too much competition for that exact thing. But like we've been saying pretty much the whole episode is making something unique, niching it down makes it unique to you. The people that are interested in that niche, crocheting with cats, whatever, if people are interested in crocheting with their cat, then that's a niche that your book will stand out in. That's not saturated because it's not, yes, it's a line journal, but it's not there's not a lot of competition in that particular niche. Now there might be because there's no reason for it, but anyway, but again, if you're making something generic, then it's going to be harder for you to be seen, above the noise. But if you take the time to make something quality that is different, you looked at your competition and saw what people like, what people don't like, and you made something tailored to them, well, then you already have proven you have an audience because you just listened to what they said. That's your audience right there.
Yeah.
And again, you can do it without running ads.
Yeah. I think finding the right audience is the other thing. If you know your audience, and I've got a perfect example for that because talking about notebooks again, people I see so many notebooks with just a pretty floral cover, whatever. If you put another one of those up, it's going to be hard to sell. But when you think about your audience, think about who buys notebooks. Who are the people? Why would they be buying a notebook? And I sometimes, my husband says, oh, look, we've sold 20 copies of this notebook probably to one person because it comes up as one order. And we know exactly why that is because they bought it. They must be a teacher or a tutor or someone like that has bought that for a class of people. So think about what subjects do people study? You need to really know your audience. Who are you targeting? And that really helps when it comes to selling. And that's what I didn't do enough at the beginning. And it's something you learn as you go along.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I learned going, it took me a while to learn is again to find something different, find something that makes you stand out, makes your cover stand out. Depending on what kind of interior your interior. I mean, if it's a line journal, it's a line journal. At that point, it's the cover that's going to make your book stand out. And so there's still ways to do that. And I think that's one of the things that it took me a little bit longer than it should have. Like when I started having a book sell really well, I was like, all right, well, I'll just start doing the exact same cover, but in 3 different colors,
Yeah.
And I think we've all done that at first.
I did that.
Yeah. And so, and then you're wondering why those other colors aren't really selling. And so it's like, okay, that's not really making it different and making it look different, but it's not making it different. It's not speaking to a different audience. It's not speaking to the same audience, but in a slightly different way. And so it's that little nuance that can really make the difference between, you can build a whole brand around one specific type of book.
Yeah.
Just by changing little nuances.
Yeah. I think, it's not easy to think of something different. When we say to people, oh, make yours different, what do we even mean by that? It's not easy to, I think of it in terms of how can I add something personal to it that should make it different. If you make a notebook, think about what's going on in your life. What are you particularly good at, or what are you not so good at? What are you struggling with? Make a book for a person who's struggling with the same things, or that sometimes hits the spot as well.
Right.
So I always think it's a really good idea to come with it from your personal perspective, from your own, because when we think of customer avatars, or who's
Yep.
my customer, in most cases I'm my customer. So I tend to make books that I would buy. And why would I buy them? Why don't I buy another one? There's got to be something that I've put into it that I resonate with and I can relate to. And I'm sure that if I can relate to it, there must be somebody else out there that can as well. So that's one way of looking at it. I don't know, but there's a lot of ways of making your books different.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could, I mean, like I said, we could do a whole episode just on that, because I'll be honest, many of my niches, I am not my customer avatar.
You can do it that way.
I'm completely different. I've created books where I'll just be sitting there at, a restaurant with my wife, and we're waiting to get the check, and somebody, says something over there. So it kind of catches my attention. I want to write a book for that person, And so, yeah, I've done that. And again, we can do a whole nother episode on, finding find your reader avatar. But yeah, I mean, it really, again, the bottom line is you really need to create something that somebody wants. I mean, that's the whole key about any kind of business, is you have to create something that somebody else wants. I guess I should say somebody else wants to buy, because I mean, you can create what we call passion projects. You can create something that I just want to write. It's a story in my head. I've got to get it out. Great. But again, set realistic expectations. If there's not an audience for that, don't be surprised when it's not selling, So that's part of the whole saturation. People create something that they wanted, but they don't do the research to see if there's really an audience there. And then they hear people say that KDP saturated, and they're like, oh, then it's saturated. That's why it's not selling. Yeah. Maybe there's just not an audience for that. So there are plenty of reasons why a book won't sell or a book doesn't sell. But I would say 99.9% of the time, it's not because of saturation. It's because of a plethora of other reasons. But, and we recently did an episode where we talked about what to do if your book's not selling. But I would say don't let that deter you from trying again, from being in this business, because again, it can absolutely change your life and change the life of not just your family, but if you're able to do more, then you're able to help other people more. So you can change other people's lives.
Yeah. And chances are that you are now at the same stage that I was 4 years ago. We've all done what you're doing. If you are creating books that are already on Amazon and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to create one like that. I'll create another logbook. I'll create a blood pressure logbook, or we've all been there. We've done that. And it's not that you shouldn't create them. I think you should. You should make those mistakes. You should work your way through that learning curve, because it's all learning. We're all learning from doing the wrong thing. And in the end, you come to the good bits. You start learning, well, this isn't working, so how can I do it differently? Right. That's how you do it. And you've got to have that mindset, that every mistake I've made in the past has led me to this point. So, it's not failure. It's just your path to success, if you can put it like that.
Yeah. And not to say that, a blood pressure logbook wouldn't sell, it's just, again, but look at the reviews. What can you do to make yours better? Because I guarantee you, I can't guarantee. I have yet to see any book that has a decent number of reviews that still has a 5-star rating, which means somebody thought something wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And so there's something that you can do to make it better when you create yours, whatever type of book that is. I mean, I've done videos on this on my channel, but Stephen King, his books have 1-star reviews.
Yes.
Yeah, it happens to every book, which means that there's always room for improvement. And so again, if you look at that and look at it that way and put the extra effort in to read the reviews and figure out what's worth you jotting down to make yours better and what's not, because some are just people just writing negative reviews. Sometimes they just a 1-star and doesn't tell you why. But as long as you take the time to create a good quality book and find a way to make yours better, make yours stand out in a good way, that's the path to success. And your very first book, whatever type it is going to be typically your worst one. And you're always going to get better because we always are learning, learning on, from what we've created. We can create things better. We can create them faster, however, whatever. And so your business is going to continue to improve. So again, I would just say, if someone says that KDP is saturated, I would recommend that you just smile and just wave, do the penguins from Madagascar, smile and wave as you start getting better and better and start showing them how you're making money in a saturated market. Well, this has been another great mastermind area. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast and maybe even leave us a review and let us know what you thought. And also, there's send us a text option on most podcast platforms, and you can literally send us a text and ask us questions, let us know what you thought. And we love to hear from each and every one of you.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Colby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.